This is crazy. That was the first one or second one?
That was the first one. But the thing is that we went live with some ad and then it ended after the ad. What the fuck is restream? You going live or what?
I'm going live. It's preparing the meeting.
Alright, I got it. Okay, you're live.
Again?
Yep.
But it's setting up my meeting for YouTube Live.
I'm watching you.
Right now?
Yep.
Oh, so we're live on YouTube now. So this is serious. Hey guys, okay. Are you sure I'm live the second time? Okay, great. Okay, guys, we're live again. Sorry. So we know we work in the tech industry, but we didn't know how difficult YouTube Live is in terms of integration between Zoom and YouTube. Okay, so today let me introduce myself. We also have our guest very quickly. So this is Dr. Nancy Lee's YouTube channel. So I teach negotiation, product management, and trying to help people to get into the tech industry to become a product managers. Today we have our pleasure to have our guest speaker, Carla, to teach us how did she use the Agile methodology in the restaurant industry. Hi, Carla, how's it going?
Hi, Nancy. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. I know we're doing a very precedented time, and thank you for making the time. I know everybody's life has become very different compared with before. We wanted to do this for a while regarding doing in person. Now we're still doing mask things. So let's do this in this remote fashion. Yeah, so let's get started regarding the purpose of today's talk. Let me introduce Carla's background and talking about why we will today focus on Agile for restaurants. So first of all, so Carla is the operational manager at Mei Mei Restaurant. It's an award-winning, woman-owned family restaurant in Boston's Fenway neighborhood. So before transitioning into the restaurant industry in 2019, Carla was VP of operations and a partner at East Coast Product, which is also a Boston-based software development firm. And now she is using this Agile methodology in the restaurant industry. And of course, Carla's main interest outside of work is knitting, and she's really love knitting, and she's on very several knitting clubs, and you guys should check out her knitting clubs as well if you're interested in that domain. Okay, so let's get into our main topic today, Carla. So as of today, we know that due to this pandemic and COVID-19, lots of restaurants going into very different directions compared with like 3 months ago. And I know yourself also went from the tech industry and all the way into the restaurant industry, have seen the entire transition. So why don't you tell us something regarding your transition and why you made the transition from tech into restaurant?
Absolutely. So I loved my time in tech, and operations has kind of always been the constant thread. And it just turns out that my partner is a lifetime chef. And so when we would come home and talk about our experiences, we realized that we were facing some of the same challenges. And so I've always loved food, and it just seemed like it could be a good fit. But I had also never worked in a restaurant a day in my life. So in 2018, I took the plunge and took some time off. And then by early 2019, I took my first restaurant job as a hostess and worked all my way up to supervisor. And then late last year, I made the transition to Mei Mei, and it's been amazing.
Awesome. Actually, I've been to Mei Mei multiple times myself because I used to live in the Fenway neighborhood. And I remember Mei Mei started as a food truck, right? Can you tell us more about Mei Mei and what is going on right now with Mei Mei and also the transition and during this pandemic?
Yeah, so the restaurant started out as a food truck in 2012, and it was founded by the Lee siblings, and it's currently carried on by Irene Lee, the youngest little sister, which is what Mei Mei means. And really our focus is on fusion Chinese food. The family grew up in Brookline, so there's a little bit of Jewish influence, Chinese food with cheese, which our folks in the neighborhood know and love. And the business has kind of been growing, and the plan originally was to open additional locations. In fact, we were in the middle of negotiating a lease for another property when the pandemic hit.
Wow. Did you sign the lease or you withdrew the lease right before the pandemic?
It was with the lawyers getting ready to be signed when everything started going down.
Wow. Wow.
So needless to say, we will not be going forward with those plans at this time. So the restaurant, or the team at the restaurant, really had to rethink how we were going to move forward. As most people know, all restaurants shut down immediately because of social distancing and the spread of COVID-19. And so we really had to think about how we could continue operations in the midst of all of this. And so when I got promoted to operations manager, I was going to be taking over the catering department, which is one of our biggest revenue streams, both private events as well as teaching on-site dumpling classes. And
Carla. So for May, which we are talking about, you were operational manager for the catering business. That was during before the pandemic, or the new catering happened during the post-pandemic. So tell me the time frame.
Sure. So I got the promotion to operations manager in February. So I was in the middle of training and was about to officially take on the role as catering manager in early March. And then, as we know, just a couple of weeks later, the pandemic hit. And so I had already had plans of introducing a loose Agile framework with the catering team to kind of keep us all on the same page. And at that point, I was approached by Irene, the owner, and our business manager, Alyssa, to see if I could roll that out with the entire company.
Awesome. And how was that catering thing going right now?
So right now, the current services that we're offering are virtual online classes. That was the first product that we were able to develop. And the restaurant is also doing family style takeout and groceries, which are really needed in the community.
Hold on, let me digest a little bit. So you guys have a physical restaurant and you do catering. And during the pandemic, you suddenly pivot into teaching dumpling classes online and also family size takeout. Am I right? Like larger portion takeout. And in addition, you also have what's the third thing?
Grocery.
Yeah, grocery. Got you. Grocery itself is also its own independent things. Yeah, this really resonates me regarding for grocery, because lots of people use Instacart right now and we cannot place any order until 2 weeks out, at least for Cambridge. I don't know other places. For Cambridge, you're gonna wait for 2 weeks. And if you're lucky, you can get a spot. So May itself became a delivery service for families, right?
So we're not doing as much delivery as we are doing restaurant pickup.
Got you. Okay, I see. So it's more towards pickup from the restaurant, then you bring it over to the customer's home.
Correct.
Got you. Perfect. Can you give us some examples regarding how did you use Agile? Because I know we came from a very deep tech background, and something I really want to bring up is that, so Carla and I has been personal friends for a very, very long time. So I knew your career path, you were individual contributor as the Scrum Master at East Coast Product. And then you gradually become the managers and you became the partner eventually. Then you suddenly start to pivot because your aspiration for food. Then you start to use Agile for different things in restaurant. Maybe you can tell us how exactly you use your tech knowledge, the Agile methodology in one of 3 revenue streams you talk about.
Absolutely. So since Agile is just an organizational framework, you really can apply it to anything. And I think if you're operationally minded, it's really hard to turn that part of yourself off.
Yeah.
So even in my personal work, I kind of run mini sprints. I plan ahead for the week and try to work in a very iterative fashion. And so the way we got started was really just presenting this concept to the team and getting everybody onboarded on Trello, where we set up sort of very loose sprints. My team, because it's the catering team and the demands of our work, we're actually on a weekly sprint system so that we can respond to the changing environment, which is what's great about Agile. It lets you really focus for really short bursts of time. And so we have instituted daily stand-up We have sprint plannings. We keep track of our cards and move them through. We have sprint review and retrospectives. So folks are really involved in some of the core activities of sprints. And I'm slowly starting to teach folks a little bit more about Agile and Lean methodologies as they're starting to sort of get used to working from home and doing a little bit more administrative work than they might have done originally.
So let me imagine this. So for your sprint, first of all, how long is a sprint? For us, it's like 2 weeks in general.
Right.
So how long is your sprint?
We're currently doing 1 week sprints because things are continually changing.
Awesome. So you have this 1 week sprint, and during the daily stand-up, what's on your backlog exactly? So what do you do and for your daily stand-up and backlogs?
So the daily stand-up actually involves everyone in the company that's working remotely, which I would say is about 80% of our folks on staff. And everybody knows they go through what they did yesterday, what they're working on today, and any blockers. And so for the catering team specifically, since we're marketing virtual classes, that's been an amazing revenue stream for us. We were able to take a product that we had in-house and completely transform it to an online offering that our customers have really enjoyed. And it's been a great break for folks while they're stuck at home. And as folks are starting to cook more, they've become more and more interested. So right now we're really focused on product development. So figuring out what other classes we could be offering or how to expand our catering menu, given the limitations of sourcing or customers' availability to access us.
Awesome. So actually I took a webinar at different places talking about small business owners, how did they transition? Actually, Mei was actually the leader in the space because specifically the framework I was taught for small businesses in general is you go in, think about what you say is mainly operating a restaurant, but you move up different kind of value chain. Like what you guys is doing is that you cannot right now, maybe right now we're gradually opening for different states, as this in Massachusetts, not at this moment, you cannot have guests coming in. So you move upstream saying that they cannot come in their home, they must be cooking. But they must learn from somebody to cook something delicious like dumplings, which I really love myself. Awesome. So how did you develop the video classes? Is a video or is a live teaching, like wrapping dumplings?
We do live teaching. So several of our staff members, myself included, have gone through a training program. And one of our main offerings in the restaurant before the pandemic was live and in-person classes that folks could sign up for, as well as private classes. And so now we've just converted our content to be available online. And so anytime someone signs up for either a public class through Eventbrite or a private class, you are actually receiving instruction from a live teacher.
Awesome. Hold on. So which means everybody can just sign up and you can opt in from any live teachers about, especially during maybe right now because it's dinner time. So we can learn from the live teachers. Awesome. Yeah. So now let's get back to this non-foodie part because I love to talk about all the food and dumplings. And now let's talk about the Agile because I know lots of people on this live stream right now, but lots of them from like students such as like from MIT, Northeastern Columbia, and also like CMU and different schools. They want to become a product managers trying to learn how exactly apply the methodology in real life, right? So we talk about the daily stand-up and we also talk about potential different kind of backlogs. So, and also, can you tell me more regarding when you guys apply this methodology and how it is similar, how it is different compared with tech? For example, do you have like story points and review? What challenges have you made? We just want to dive deeper so that we see in real life, how do you use this Agile methodology?
Absolutely. So the way that we've kind of adapted little pieces of it, I think the goal, especially as we got started with this, was not to overwhelm the team with too much jargon and technical terms for things, but more help them get into the flow of working from home while still increasing accountability and transparency. Because it's very different when you see somebody every day. You can't, cook from home for a restaurant job. So that was a little bit of a switch. And then when we build our cards, we don't assign points at this point. That I think that's something that we're sort of aiming for and maybe starting to judge velocity. But we do break it out into tasks, and then usually we have a job story, or we talk about customer needs. And in fact, we just did a design thinking sprint last week with help from some of our MBA interns, which was awesome. So we're really trying to embrace as much of this creative thinking, but still being organized and focused, because as you know, restaurants and small businesses are hemorrhaging money right now.
Yeah.
The business model has been completely disrupted. So we need to be able to plan quickly, iterate, and start putting things out, getting feedback from our customers, and continually improve our offerings. So that's really been our focus.
Awesome. Hold on. So you told me so much information. I really want to dive in. That you said you did a design thinking sprint.
Yep.
And which is also customer centric and like customer focused. I like to dive into that a little bit. The reason is just for the tips for people watching this live interview, interview for Carla, is that in your real job interview for product management, people will have you to do something similar, which is, okay, do a design thinking sprint of, I don't know, like wrapping dumpling classes. How would you do that? What the needs from customers? They will have you to put in the framework as part of this case study during the interview. So you got to nail this. Now let's use a real life example. How would you do design thinking? Because somebody might have this interview questions actually. Yeah. So let's walk us through regarding the design thinking sprint. What's the needs from customers? How do you do that?
So we started out with doing about 30 customer interviews. We just put it out through our regular newsletter, and we have a very loyal following. So several people stepped up and were willing to talk to us. And what we really wanted to understand was how their eating habits had changed since the pandemic. Most people are cooking more at home, whether they like it or not, and need to get groceries into the home in some way. And even if you relied on delivery services before, as we all know, those time slots are really hard to come by.
Yeah.
And even if you have a whole list picked out, you might only end up with half of the items that you originally wanted. So you have to get a little bit creative with what you get.
Exactly. I had a specific instance. I wouldn't say the instance is more normal during the pandemic. It became normal. So I'm Chinese, so I ordered something different. You know, Chinese like to eat something broader. So I ordered something like the pork bone soup. I want to make the soup. I had the pork bones. But when I place order, it's on Instacart to get it from HMart. They don't have the specific bones. Then they gave me very expensive pork belly, $20 pork belly, which I don't like fat. Then the bones turn into pork belly because somehow you cannot get everything you want. But I also understand from the Instacart perspective, all the work is very difficult. Lots of things to run out. Even right now, I walk in to get my pork bone soup. They don't have it 50% of the time. So I had to swap out, but they don't know what exactly you want. They didn't know I don't like pork belly in general. So, but they need to fill the cart. So it is hard. You're right.
So what we did is we then took that interview information and presented it to the team and just did some really fun brainstorming, getting everybody involved and thinking about creative ways where we could connect the resources that we do have with the needs of our customers. For example, customers really talked about how much they miss the social aspect of eating and interacting with others. And so we're trying to think about ways to still make our customers feel special, even though we don't get to see them face to face anymore. And so even these little bits of customer delight are so critical to successful business, and it's how Maymay has made it, so far already, is that special touch, is the warm feeling that we give our guests. So even now with the pandemic, it's so important for us to continue to focus on our values and the things that we've been offering all along.
Awesome. So let me ask you this question, right? Let's pick one of the customer example. How would you solve problem for them? Because I'm very interested. I really love product management myself because I do think it's coming out with creative ideas to solve problems for customers. Of course, you also need to juggle regarding time, like resources, what is possible, prioritization. So let's pick one, see how we solve problem for them. So you mentioned customers really miss the social eating part. That's one of the reasons I reached out to you. It's like, we miss it. So what solution have you designed for them? And in addition, how do you get to the solution, right? Because we talk about the process, the design thinking process. Now you know they miss eating with friends. So what's the next step eventually lead to a solution?
Sure. So a very concrete example is that we have a great bunch of wedding catering clients that have had to postpone their weddings.
Yeah.
And so one of the first things that we did was send them a really nice message telling them that we're still very much looking forward to celebrating their big day. And we hosted a dumpling class specifically for the wedding clients. So they all got to interact with each other and chat about their plans, how things were changing, and some of the challenges that they were having. And so they probably wouldn't have had this interaction otherwise, but they were meeting other couples that were going through the exact same thing. And so that's something special that I don't think anybody else would have offered.
Awesome. You're right. And my personal also went through the struggle. I was supposed to have a wedding myself in China. It was canceled. Now we figure out what do we do in the US. I don't think we have a wedding soon-ish. I see that. So I also see that actually recently people have those birthdays, like hunk for birthdays, you cannot celebrate. And for weddings, of course, you cannot celebrate. I do like this idea that you actually bring more people. In addition to the guests, looks like you also match couples together. They are strangers. They took the same class. Now they're friends, so they can socialize, talk about the difficulties. Aw, that's awesome. I should sign up. Now I miss so much about this.
We'll definitely get you in for the next one. Another example is we participate in Off Their Plate, which is an incredible organization here in Boston that provides meals for hospital workers, and they pay restaurants to do it. So it matches donors with restaurants that can actually cook the meals. And then one of the main things that came out of that is that a lot of folks working in hospitals don't have time to go grocery shopping. They don't have time to stand in the lines. By the time they place their order online, they're really kind of at the bottom of the list. And so we are currently working on creating a grocery box that we can deliver to hospital workers directly at their workplace. So we can do a big batch for MGH or the Brigham and take all the groceries over there, and then the hospital staff can just prepay for those.
Awesome. So let me also understand this. The needs you identify, because we want to put it into the Agile framework and design thinking. I like that you put it into design thinking framework as well. I found it very fun. So the needs you discover is that you don't have time, and mainly it's a time for hospital workers to go grocery shopping. So you deliver the fresh food, right? The farm food. I think you told me something from fresh food, something like that, from farm directly to them as a box. Right?
Yes.
Awesome. And then they go home, cook by themselves.
Mhm.
Do you also give them pre-cooked food as well?
Yes, we've provided pre-prepared meals as well. But what we've heard from folks is they don't really need that as much at this point. Initially, I think when the pandemic hit, that was more important because folks were practically living in the hospital. But now that they're getting to go home and having a little bit more life balance, cooking is a priority for a lot of people.
Yeah. I also, speaking of personal experience, and also can imagine that when you start home, you have nothing to do. Cooking is one of things you can do actually with your spouses and do something. You're right. Yeah, if they have the time to cook, they will cook. So the change also shifted. Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you also talk a little bit more regarding the volunteer side, regarding the restaurant? Because honestly, really surprised me or not surprised me, both sides. Surprised me part was that I would imagine restaurants need the help more than other people. But you start to help instead of receiving help. You start to give even if you need help the most. The part I do not surprise me was that given the founder history of May May, I read the stories, and also you're a part of this, lots of people very passionate about food join May May. So I'm not surprised that they're going to do something very creative, thinking about the communities from that aspect. So can you talk about how you guys needing help and also giving help to others? What kind of specific struggles you have been through besides transition from the business perspective?
Sure. So I have to say that our owner, Irene Lee, is the biggest social justice champion you will ever meet. And the restaurant has always been a vehicle for helping others. And the restaurant supply chain, or the way that we receive our product, is actually different from the way the general public does. So even when the pandemic hit, we still had access to fresh food because we have developed these great partnerships with our vendors as well as with local farms. So we still had the food and it had nowhere to go. And then there's all of these people out there that don't have access to food. So that felt like a very easy niche for us to fill. Not only does it create work for us, but it clearly is a service for the general public. And so besides Off Their Plate, which helps hospital workers, we are also involved in a program called La Comunidad, which delivers grocery boxes to families in Everett that might be undocumented or otherwise have poor access to fresh food.
I see. That's amazing. Yeah, I heard recently some restaurant or other places, they start to do similar kind of things. We're going to deliver the food boxes. And I believe when we get started, when they start to announce this stuff, the pipeline waitlist was like a month or so, something to get a box of fresh food. And I think nowadays might be easier. Do you see the trend has changed? The demand, also supply. What's the change compared with middle of March and now?
Oh my God, the change has been radical. So we've definitely gotten out of crisis mode, and now we're just kind of getting accustomed to the new normal. And I think government has also caught up in that regard. So small business loans have started to come into effect, and also you need a permit to sell groceries. And so that was an issue in the city of Boston. But thankfully, the government has given temporary grocery permits to restaurants. You have to apply for it, but it only takes about a week to complete that process. So that makes us able to sell groceries legally.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. So now you guys actually transition. Now let's think about the entire value chain. You transition directly from restaurant, like brick and mortar restaurant, you're teaching classes, you also do some kind of delivery, you also become the broker, right? So you come up with a specific niche, there's a lot of supply. The vegetables are growing in the farmer's farm, but there's lots of needs. So you directly match them instead of have them to go to Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. You skip those parts. So I would also assume the farmer's food you get is also cheaper and more fresh. I assume it's cheaper than Whole Foods as well.
The price is different when you get it wholesale, and we try to stay pretty close to that. We still need to repackage it, and there's some labor involved, so that does increase the cost to a degree, but I would definitely say it's at least cheaper than, if not comparable to, what you would get in a supermarket in terms of pricing.
That's awesome. Maybe you can link it down below, the YouTube link. Do we have volunteers that link it down below for your resources that people can totally sign up using this? And something what I realized is that during this pandemic, marketing is very difficult and also new to lots of people, because from the needs perspective, for example, for May's restaurant, I don't know how do you guys do marketing in the past for small businesses. I don't know how you drive that now. And now you want to teach anything digital instead of, and also your new offerings like matching farmers with people who need it, like myself. How would you do marketing right now and before and after?
So we're taking kind of a multi-pronged approach with that. We have an awesome marketing team that really focuses on social media and our newsletter. And Irene herself sits on several nonprofit boards and is really out in the community. So really, like, her brand also helps us out and kind of markets itself. But that's something that we're actually thinking about more critically, how to reach some of our former corporate clients that might be interested in team building activities now that everybody's working remote. We've seen a lot of interest and uptick in that. We're using Eventbrite, and we're currently exploring how to increase our online presence and looking for other ways to promote ourselves more. But yes, it is very tricky, and we've had to sort of expand that arm of the company very quickly.
Awesome. I would also imagine you guys want to do like A/B testing and do different things to figure out which channel works, right? Now I was like, hey guys, this is totally learning process for me, because usually when we talk about A/B testing and agile and design thinking, it's mainly for the tech industry. I'm so lucky to see that how the methodology have been used in a non-conventional way and has been like impacting people's day-to-day life already. I'm very excited. Awesome. So Carla, I also have one last question before we open up for questions to you, is that I also assume like this can inspire lots of small businesses thinking about the new way of like changing themselves and also pivot during this pandemic. I would also assume that not everybody can just take Agile and use it right away, right? Is there any prerequisite for people to learn from you to try out new things for small businesses?
Definitely. I think that's a really important question and consideration.
Yeah.
So one of the things that makes Maymay special, and I'm not necessarily saying unique, but special, is that the team was already very much used to experimentation and very open to it. We actually participate in a program called Open Book Management, which means that everybody is trained on how to understand basic financials, and we have monthly financial meetings about the status of the restaurant. So the team was already very engaged in the business and involved in that aspect of things. And they were very creative with technical solutions. The whole team is on Slack. This already existed well before I got there. And I think the most important thing is that the Agile framework was embraced by leadership. If Irene and some of our other senior managers hadn't been 100% committed and accountable themselves to the process, there is no way this would have worked.
Yeah, I would also want to emphasize regarding the leadership perspective, for them to embrace the Agile methodology. I remember earlier through our like personal conversation, even before COVID, and your leadership have been very open-minded, trying to adopt new things. And something just like how you get promoted, right? Maybe you can tell them your example regarding how you introduce new ideas and your leadership embrace it and give you the room to grow. Maybe use that as an inspiration for people to learn as a leadership.
Yeah, so I think I was early on was hearing from the entire team like, hey, feedback is constantly welcome and that it was a learning environment. And so I think I learned very early on in my own career that kind of staying quiet and hanging back gets you nowhere, especially being a woman and a woman of color. You really do have to put yourself out there. And so I was careful to kind of feel out the team, but was also really ready to give my feedback when it was solicited. So I think they started to see that I was really interested in constant iteration, constant improvement, and that this could be something that could be used in different ways throughout the company.
I see. Then you start to make proposals of catering different things and get promoted. Now you're helping the company to change during COVID. Perfect.
Exactly.
All right. So let me ask you one final question. Do you have any recommendations for like people in the audience? Now I assume people watching this right now, they are small businesses and also people who are product managers or trying to become product managers. Do you have any specific like final advice that you can give them?
So one thing that I would even say to my consulting clients before I even moved into the restaurant industry is to try not to be blinded by your current circumstance or only look at what people within your industry are doing. You can always borrow from methodologies, perspectives from elsewhere. It's really about being sort of a constant learner and student and getting out there and networking, meeting other people, because otherwise there's no way I would have ever been able to make the connection between Agile and restaurants. Like these things just don't seem to fit at first glance. But then as you dive deeper, you learn that there is so much opportunity to apply sort of these frameworks to a broad range of challenges.
Awesome. Thank you. And also, is there any questions at the let's see, do we have any questions? You guys can submit questions directly on the YouTube live stream. Underneath it is a comment session, so you guys can put in the comment as we are trying to collect all the questions right now. And also at the same time, I have specific call to actions, and this is just like my idea thinking about if you are small business owners, you're interested in like using this new methodology and you need some help to execute, or you have different needs. Maybe it's more towards I have a new pain point, but I wanted someone to help me to solve the problem. And if so, feel free to email me directly. So I believe whoever registered for this live YouTube live event, you got my email already. So you can reply to my email directly saying that Nancy, I need help with ABC. Doesn't have to be Agile, could be something else. Then I can pass your needs to other people on my email list, and maybe it could be students who's looking for something to do in the summer and to gain experience, then I can match you. So small business owners, feel free to email me directly. And also there's another announcement I want to make is that, so next Wednesday and Thursday, I'm going to teach a free webinar, a free masterclass about how I got 6 interviews and 3 job offers during the pandemic. So I'm going to teach you how exactly I did that. I know lots of people email me and reach out to me saying that, Nancy, I'm very stressed out because during the pandemic, lots of companies are not hiring. And what I realized is even like MIT student, I went to MIT, I talked to MIT student before, and they felt the same way, saying that there's not enough openings outside. However, through my personal experience, as you can see, I quickly got 6 interviews and 3 offers, and more offers are coming as well. So it's more about how can you improve yourself to become the top 1% candidate instead of focusing on something you cannot control. So you guys can check out more on my free webinar next Wednesday and Thursday. I'm going to put the link in the comment section as well of this live stream, so you can check it out, and hopefully I can share something with you as well. And of course, I focus on product management. All the jobs I got is a director of products or product manager job. So hopefully it can help with you guys. So now let's look into our questions in the comment section. So let's go into this. Any questions? Let me, hey guys, I'm new to this YouTube technology, even if I'm in the tech space. Let me see how to, I'm a little bit slow. Let me see how to read your comments. This is my first time doing this. Okay. Am I assuming, is this? So this is live, 1 sec. Am I? Interesting. I do not see any comment. Did I click the wrong link? Live now. I have 2 live now. Maybe there is no comment. Yeah, okay, it's okay. So I do not see any comment down below. So if you have any other questions, feel free to directly email me back, and I connect you with Carla. And in addition, I will also put Carla's LinkedIn directly on the live channel. And in addition, you can also directly get the link to my free webinar. You can learn more about this. All right, so Carla, thank you very much. I will see you next time. Do you have any last minute to the audience questions?
Well, thank you to everybody that tuned in, and I'm certainly happy to answer questions. I'm by no means an expert. I am kind of playing it by ear just like the rest of us are, but any opportunity to share, what I've learned or gain insight from others is certainly welcome.
Awesome. Thank you very much. You are so humble. You're already the partner of East Coast Product before this. Yes, you share so much today. It's also a learning process for myself as well. Thank you. All right, I will see you next time, Carla. See you guys. Yeah, email us anytime. Bye.
Bye.